When I was doing the other one, I wasn't doing the deep breathing stuff.
Yeah.
Was I supposed to?
Yeah, like I don't think you're generating the breath to get the saline in there. I think it's better to take some deep breaths. I think it'd be more beneficial.
Huh. And how long do I do them? I mean, how many times? No, how many times?
Oh, the aerobica, you mean in between?
Yeah.
In between? If you do it 10 times an hour, that's best practice. That's how you're going to get the most effect, the quickest, so you don't have to be doing it
Mhm.
the way I look at it is like the more you do it, it's going to be more annoying. But then if you do it a lot quicker, then you're going to get better quicker, and then you're not going to have to do it as much. I mean, so,
Good way of thinking about it.
right.
Okay. Time is now, well, it's 9:01 on the computer, so I got to go with that. 9:01 a.m. on August 21st, 2025. I'd like to call this meeting to order of the Kane County Public Service Committee. Clerk, please call the roll.
Gripe,
Right here.
Thumbs, Lewis, Sanchez, Happy,
Happy awake.
We're almost done. It's just
For how long?
4 more minutes. 4 more
Sanchez.
Sanchez present.
Awake now.
minutes.
We're getting some chatter online. Okay, remote attendance requests. I don't see, Mr. Young, did you need to attend remotely? I see your name.
Yes, I'm attending remotely.
Okay. And I know Mr. Sturgis, I think he's got some plumbers at his house or something and might try to tune in. Any objections to anyone attending remotely? Hearing none, everybody can vote. Approval of the minutes, July 17th, 2025. I need a motion of some type to approve those minutes.
Unanimous consent.
Pepe asked for unanimous consent to approve the minutes, July 17th, 2025. Any objection? Hearing none, the minutes are approved. Public comment. We do have a few people sign up for public comment. So I'm going to start off with Victoria Davidson Bell.
I was appalled to learn that the Kane County Board is considering a proclamation opposing non-citizen voting. This is wrong on so many levels. First of all, to get this one out of the way, you're implying that your board counterparts would support and enable voter fraud. We have people in this room who have QAnon influences, and QAnon promotes that the Democratic Party is the party of hate, evil, and Satan. Our president posted to this effect. For board members to imply that there is voter fraud willfully enacted by the Democratic Party is insulting, to say the least. I, for one, resent it. There's been absolutely no evidence of a systemic use of voter fraud in this country. In fact, the Brennan Center states that from studies done, non-citizen is, in their words, vanishingly rare. Non-citizens in Illinois are not allowed to vote, period. And there are checks in place for this, whether you choose to recognize it or not. Ms. Juby brought this up last meeting. As was pointed out by a citizen who has served as an election judge in the last meeting, there is training done for election judges that addresses this. Next, you will attack our voting machines. You will attack it based on grant funding used to purchase. May I remind you that both Fox News has been fined $787 million, and Newsmax has been fined 67 million for spreading lies about the Dominion voting machines. Smartmatics cases are still ongoing, but it doesn't bode well for either news outfit. And now we have Putin telling Trump that he should have won his election in 2020 if it weren't for vote in mail votes. Mail-in voting is secure and there's no fraud, evidence of fraud shown. Why we are allowing a dictator who supports himself by with voting by mail in his own country to sow doubt in our own system is beyond me. Russia and 30 other countries have a form of mail-in voting with no reports of problems. Why? What does Putin have to gain by his behavior? And are there some in this country that serve Putin? When you support this misguided proclamation, you are supporting the lie that the 2020 election was fraudulent. It is a dog whistle for some who have limited information sources. You are suggesting to the public that the 2020 lie has credence. It is inappropriate for this board to engage in supporting lies that are damaging to our country and our nation. It should be beneath us in Kane County.
Bingo.
Next up is Denise Theobald.
There's still some stuff in here. Should I just keep doing it or no?
You know what? If you want to be.
I would like to address the repeated claims by some members of this board that non-citizens may be voting in Kane County elections and that our elections are not secure enough, particularly same-day registration and voting. These claims are false. Let's be clear, Illinois has strict checks and balances to prevent non-citizens from voting. Same-day registrants must show proper identification, prove they're U.S. citizens. There are signature matching, provisional ballots, cross-checks with state and federal databases. And the risks and penalties of doing so are enormous. Here in Kane County, our bipartisan election officials have consistently demonstrated integrity and transparency. In 2021, based on requests from Republicans, Kane County Clerk Jack Cunningham, a Republican, and staff spent more than 100 hours providing a forensic audit. Conclusion, no evidence of fraud. In fact, Kane County has been repeatedly recognized nationally for its excellence by Bipartisan USA Alliance for Election Excellence. Meanwhile, federal agencies warn us that the real threats to elections are misinformation, voter intimidation, and insider attempts to undermine the process. What is so upsetting is that those very threats are now coming from this board and echoing the degradation of our democracy from the top of our government. We all want free and fair elections. It's the foundation of our democracy. That's why it's so troubling, Mr. Young, who is not here today, but I believe you can hear me, when in the last meeting you stood up here at this podium and spread conspiracy theories. You claimed that Democrats were harvesting ballots in 2020. That's 100% false. Your source, a propaganda film called 2,000 Mules by Dinesh D'Souza, a man who pleaded guilty to campaign finance fraud, and a film that has been widely debunked, discredited, and retracted from its own promoters. You talked about so-called Zuckerbucks, which has been wholeheartedly rejected in court and unanimously dismissed by the Bipartisan Federal Election Commission. The CTCL is not funneling funds to influence elections. It provides nonpartisan grants across the country to upgrade technology and actually strengthen our election integrity. Finally, you yourself admitted your proclamation on non-citizen voting was designed as a gotcha moment if a board member voted against it. Was this really about election integrity? So I urge you, to those spreading this nonsense, which sows doubt and confusion in our community, to please stop it. Stop wasting taxpayer money and this board's time. Be honest with your constituents, give them the facts, and focus instead on the real issues facing Kane County. And I finally want to thank the board members who did vote no and spoke against this proclamation. Your courage to stand up for the truth and facts is exactly what our community needs and demands in this moment. Thank you.
Next up, I have Heather Hayes.
Hey, good morning, everyone. Excuse me. I too want to address a claim that non-citizens are voting in Illinois elections. And they're voting especially through same-day registration. We all know this is not true. Independent studies show that non-citizen voting is virtually non-existent in Illinois and across the country. Allegations otherwise are based on misinformation, and it serves to undermine our trust in our elections. Also, as a reminder, in Illinois and federal law already prohibit non-citizens from voting. It's against the law throughout the land. Illinois has complex and strict regulations on registration. First, to register, you must be a U.S. citizen. That's the law. When you register, whether it's weeks or the same day, you're required to sign a sworn affidavit confirming your citizenship, age, and residence. That affidavit is under penalty of perjury. For a non-citizen line on that form, it isn't just a crime, it's a felony. And with the felony charges, it risks deportation, a lifetime ban from reentering the states. And the idea that people are risking their freedom to cast one fraudulent vote simply doesn't match reality. Same-day registration requirements, you must show two forms of identification. One must prove your current residence, such as a lease or utility bill. And then if you're a first-time voter, you always have to show your ID when you vote. Election judges then check and record these documents before issuing a ballot. If there's any question, you cast a provisional ballot, which is only counted after eligibility is confirmed. And third, Illinois uses electronic poll books and a centralized voter database. When someone registers, their information is instantly checked against state records. If they have already voted by mail or in another country, the system flags it. And after the election, Illinois participates in interstate programs to cross-check voter rolls and prevent duplicates. As you can see, same-day voting in Illinois is a secure process built on sworn oaths, ID verification for first-time voters, document checks, electronic databases, provisional ballots, and legal penalties. These are the facts, and I urge elected officials to provide their constituents with facts when questions arise. Otherwise, we lose our confidence in our democratic system. And we have so many built-in measures to make sure that we don't have non-citizens voting. It's a non-issue. And to declare a proclamation that's already law seems counterproductive.
Last up, I have Steve Leffler.
Morning, everybody. Steve Leffler, St. Charles, Illinois. I believe we're here today to talk about finance, it looks like, looking at most of these reports. And I am here to speak in favor of the county, modifying the county local option to increase it to the max available. I know we are short of that, and we have DuPage County that has maxed it out. We have McHenry that has maxed it out, and it seems silly that we wouldn't take that opportunity also, especially considering our current budget situation. Thank you.
That concludes our public comment. Monthly finance report is on file. The recorder's office, they don't really get much from the general fund. They're not going to be presenting their budget this month. And Treasurer Collector Lawson, you will be presenting your budget at Finance and Budget Committee, you said, right? Okay, well, you're up. So if you want to go ahead and give your report now.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee and the audience. Let's see, the collections are coming in a little bit slower. What all that means is that there's going to be more collections in the last 2 weeks of, coming up against the deadline of September 2nd. To hear, it's reassuring to hear some of the conversations that take place on the on the floor in the office, things like, a taxpayer coming in and saying, well, let me get this over with quickly. Or our staff on the phone, well, I like chocolate milk too. Or every time that someone leaves our office, it's thank you so much. And it's each time that takes place. So it's important for us to maintain our internal morale so that when people come and interact with the county on grassroots level in paying these huge bills, that they're treated very respectfully and compassionately. It is hard to hear some of the conversations of when people come in and they can't pay the bill. I had a contact through an email of a collection agency that wants to do business with a state, with Kane County. And the answer to that is it's not necessary. It's not necessary because the consequences of not paying your bill, your tax bill, is that you lose your home after 3 years. And that's one of the most serious things that I can think of. So the payments are coming in. They're coming in a little bit more slowly in this second half. Next month, final item that I'll mention, and we've submitted our report in writing about 7-8 days ago. Next month at the meeting, after we've gone through collecting, the busy time in our office, I want to introduce a couple of staff members to you. One staff member is a replacement for one of our folks who received a 66% raise someplace else. And so we're very excited about the new people who are on board, and they're in the same tradition of respectful treatment of our constituents. So that's my report from the collection, and thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Any questions for the treasurer's office? Okay, thank you, Mr. Lawson. Supervisor of Assessments, Mr. Armstrong.
Good morning, everyone. My report begins on page 51 of your packet. I have the usual statistical data, which is provided in the front of the report. But I do have the presentation I've been doing over the past several months about some small things in my office to give you the best idea of what's going on. Before we start that, are there any questions on the statistical section? All right, this is a presentation to talk about assessing the assessments, what steps we take to make sure that Kane County assessments are uniformly developed, uniformly applied. So this presentation, by the way, is on, you have the slides in your packet as well, beginning on page 53, going through page 71. So assessing the assessments is really a provision that results from these constitutional provisions. You can see beginning in 1818, we are required to make a tax on proportion to the value of the property. This is continued in our Constitution of 1970. So what does uniformly mean? Does it mean everybody being paid, paying the exact same thing? Well, not exactly. A 1960 Supreme Court case of Apex Motor Fuel versus Barrett addressed this topic and talked about a practical uniformity rather than mathematical equality. So how is that practical uniformly measured? Well, it's measured by the use of a sales ratio study. These are studies that I do myself, but more importantly, they're also done by the Illinois Department of Revenue. So a sales ratio study is going to compare sale prices of properties to assessed values. There's a report that has to be filed every time a property sells that includes the assessed value, the sale price, and determine whether there's any reason from that sale as to why it shouldn't be included. Those are called transfer declarations. They are filed with deeds. And we look at those sales, we compare a ratio of the sale price to the assessed value. And then our goal to start with is to develop a median level of assessments. Now, remember, median means middle. So half are higher, half are going to be lower. And we look for developing a median each year. The average of those 3 years should be 33.33%. And that gives us, the sales ratio studies also give us some additional statistical measures of uniformity I'm going to talk about in a little bit. So let's start off with the 33.33%. Now, here are the results for the 2023 year. Now, if you're wondering, why haven't you used later years? This is the most recent year that every county's information in the state is available. And when that's done, the Department of Revenue publishes this study. So this is from the Department of Revenue. This is not my internal data. And I want to use that because that way we know it was developed uniformly, and it was developed by a third party. So it wouldn't be Mark cherry picking data to make himself look good or make someone else look bad. Now, you can see we're not all right at 33.33%. McHenry is, the others aren't. The Department of Revenue generally is going to say you have a practical uniformity if you are within 1%. So there's a 1% tolerance there. So that's going to give you between 33 and 33.66%. We're generally pretty close. If you get beyond that, the state is going to issue an equalization factor. Our equalization factor has been 1, which means no change every year since 1987. Can't take credit for all those because I've only been here since 2006. So you can also see Cook County assessments were at 11.05% for their median level, which is why every year the state has to go to Cook County and say, yeah, you guys got to triple your assessments because you're too low. And we share districts with Cook County, like Elgin School District and City of Elgin. If we did not have equalization for that Cook County factor, people in Elgin School District, your assessments would, your tax bills would probably double because of the way that amount is distributed. So this points out fixing the middle. Now, fixing the middle, though, isn't going to fix everything. Here's my example of that. Let's look at these two targets. You can see the one on the left, it's right in the middle. That looks great. The one on the right does not look like it's right in the middle. So the one on the left on first blush looks like the more accurate data set. But let's look at the rest of the data. So we took the rest of the data and see how it's grouped around it. We see the one in the middle looks like a shotgun fired from about 15 feet away. The one on the right looks like a sniper's bullet. Everything is bunched right around that median. I can use equalization to fix what's wrong with the right, but equalization will not fix what's wrong with the left. So we use 3 other measures to see if we're assessing correctly. Those other measures are coefficient of dispersion, coefficient of concentration, and price-related differential. Don't worry about memorizing those. There's not going to be a test later. Also, remember that every industry, every profession has its own nomenclature. We do those things because if we just called them normal words, then everybody could do it. This makes us all look smart. So coefficient of dispersion is something that is calculated from the sales ratio studies, and it's much simpler than the fancy name. It's simply the average deviation of the assessments from the median level in a given year. Our target rate of a coefficient of dispersion under Illinois law is 15%. Our average deviation should be no more than 15%. And that's for larger counties, counties of about 50,000 people. And that's about 20 counties in the state, the other 30 counties. Well, here is a coefficient of dispersion for Kane County together with the other Cook and the other Collar counties. I can see we have a coefficient dispersion of 11.74%. That is the second best in the state. And yeah, at this point you're running, so who's the best, Mark? Yeah, it's Kendall. I'm a little salty about that. We'll see what happens next year. You can see third in the state is McHenry. Will is 4th, DuPage is 5th. Cook is 20th in coefficient of dispersion. Now, that's that's one measure. The next measure is called coefficient of concentration. This again comes from the department. These are not my statistics. Coefficient of concentration is defined as the percentage of ratios falling within a given percentage of the median. So our target here is how many ratios fall within 10% of that median. So again, comparing those same counties, Kane County with 57.42% of the assessments fall within 10% of that median level. And that is again good for second best in the state. McHenry is third, Will is fourth, DuPage is seventh, and Cook is 40th. The larger counties should have high rates because we have lots of observations. It's kind of surprising when you get lots of observations and not a really good rank here. So this means something else is going on. By the way, again, if you're wondering who is first, yeah, it's Kendall again. Don't worry, we got better news coming up. The third one is price-related differential. Again, calculated by the department. Now, this is going to measure assessment progressivity or regressivity. In other words, does this mean that higher valued properties have a bias in their favor? That would be regressive. Or are lower value properties biased in their favor, which would be progressivity? So regressive assessments would show a number greater than 1. And that would mean favoring wealthy homeowners. That means they're paying less of a percent of their taxes on value than poor people are. Progressive would be the inverse of that. Now, the target rate for this is between 0.98 and 1.03. If you're within there, you're generally statistically within balance. So here's again our 2023 results. Kane County has a 1. Perfect balance. This is tied for the best in the state. Kendall is 6th. And you can see some interesting there. Cook actually did pretty good on this, but not on the others. Lake County, 45th in the state. And that kind of surprised me when I saw that. So looking this together, I developed something. Now, this is something I did internally. I used the data from those statistics and compiled a ranking between 1 and 102 for each of those 3 measures of it, and developed something that I call the combined equity rank. With weighting each of these equally, where do you end up? And with this combined equity rank, Kane County assessments actually rank first in the state. Would you look at all those together? You can see that McHenry is 3rd, Will is 5th. Yeah, Kendall is 2nd this time. DuPage is 4th. Lake is 18th, and Cook is tied for 19th. Now, all this is very interesting, but does it make a difference? Are there consequences for not having uniform and equitable assessments? Well, yeah, there are. Some of those are direct. A first direct consequence is loss of state funding to the county. We currently get more than $75,000 a year from the state because of the equity in our assessments. Not every county gets funding because of that. Once we maintain this level of accuracy, we will keep that funding coming. The second thing we get is exaggerated state equalization factors. Remember that slide back where I showed you how we had a 1 and Cook County had a 3, which means 300% plus increase every year. That increase comes from the state, but what that increase is not is appealable. No one can challenge that because it happens after all the challenge periods are over. The third one is diminished public trust in the assessment process. What does this lead to? Increased cost of assessment complaints and appeals. So let's look at the appeal rates of the same, Cook, Collier counties, the 6-county metro area, and see what their equity rank is and what their appeal rate is. Now, this again, 2023, because this is the year where I've got final data statewide. Again, Kane County has an equity rate of 1. our appeal rate going to the State Property Tax Appeal Board is 0.19% of all parcels. If you look around, you can see that McHenry, Will, and DuPage have similar low rates because we also have very high equity ranks, very similar to that. Lake County is ranked 18th. They have 1.24% of their parcels go to the state. And so that is way higher than we've got. It's like 5 times what we've got. And Cook County, almost a little over 4.5% go to the state. And look at that rate, 80,000 parcels they have to defend every year before PTAB. Can you imagine the budget cost of doing that? So these are some of the things that actually go into the budgets that we have. So last week I did a presentation where I talked about the high cost of late tax bills. And remember, I talked about how even 1 day late results in a $175,000 loss to taxing districts because of lost interest on first installments and second installments at the current overnight interest rate. Diminishing levels of service can mean one of two things. Either we do it less accurately or we do it late. Both of those have actual costs. So I wanted to make sure we have all that information, especially leading into the budget presentation. Mr. Chairman, if there are any questions, I'd be happy to answer them before going into the budget.
Any questions for Mr. Armstrong?
Gums here, Mr.
Gums?
Yeah.
Can you just restate, because I was writing it down and I missed it. You said diminished service level does what?
It results in higher assessment complaints and appeals. Oftentimes, when people see something is going on in the property tax system and they're questioning, they will file an appeal, not because they think their property is improperly assessed, but because they have no other avenue. They have no agency other than taking that response. Let me give you an example from another county. They went through a data conversion and tax bills came out, and the treasurer in that county was stunned to discover that one township had lost all of their homestead exemptions, every single one. Now, the treasurer immediately took action in this county, issued new tax bills, certificates of error was issued. It was fixed. But everybody got a tax bill of one amount, and then a couple of days later, a tax bill with a lower amount saying, sorry, we made a boo-boo. Now, that resulted in actually a loss of a lot of revenue to taxing districts. We'll set that aside for a moment. What it also lost, and this is the bigger thing, is loss of public confidence in the assessment system. And assessment complaints in that jurisdiction spiked in the following year. People weren't thinking, gee, data conversion, that's tough. I understand why that's happened. All they know is mistakes are happening. Filing is the only avenue that I have. It's the only agency I get in this. So that's why I spend so much time talking about public confidence in the assessment system, because it not only is it just good for everyone, but in the long run, even if it costs a little in the near term, it costs more in the long term to do it poorly.
Very good. Thank you.
Mr. Gripe?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have the privilege in this meeting of sitting next to two of the smartest people I think I know, and some of the best performers for the county, but
that's a very nice compliment for Member Juby.
Yeah. She's smart too, but I'm looking to my left. I respect her a lot. But at any rate, I was curious, probably you, Mark, could respond to how townships rank in something like this in the assessment process. Because when I think of assessments, I think townships, not county.
Certainly, we could take a look at that. You would want to stratify a township, though, based on its population, parcel count, and number of transactions in a given year. The other thing that probably needs to be taken into account in townships is the makeup of the actual population. So let me give you an example. Rutland Township has, for a couple of years, I haven't looked at it in this latest data set, had the best coefficient of dispersion in the state. Rutland Township also has a relatively new and homogeneous tax base. In other words, most of those properties were built within the last quarter century. That's the time when it's the easiest to get handled, and especially when they're tract housing. Now let's look at another market like, say, Aurora or Elgin, where you have housing in many places that is over 100 years old. They are not homogeneous. So it makes it much harder to get done because they're smaller jurisdictions. It's kind of like how that coefficient of dispersion target actually increases when you hit a smaller jurisdiction. A smaller sample size makes it harder to do. I can certainly provide that information to you. The only townships that we don't have actual data for is Burlington, Virgil, Caneville, and Big Rock. And that's because those townships are so small, they don't have 25 good sales in a usable sales for a ratio study in a given year. And it's uniformly agreed across various agencies that that's just too small of a sample size to produce meaningful results.
Thank you. The combined equity rank, I think, is very revealing, but I think if people just looked at it, that Kane County is number one, might lead them the wrong way, that they think that we're not as good as we are, because one would be bad, right? When I'm taxing people, one would be bad and a number way down at the bottom would be good. I think.
Well, I can flip that and make us 102 if that would make you feel better.
I'm just saying it's something we might want to communicate throughout the county, that this is a really good number, and publish this, because people, as you're right, get upset about this kind of stuff. So anyway, I just think it's a good.
I have written an article about this. I write a column for Bar Briefs, which is the magazine of the Kane County Bar Association. And their next issue is going to be equity focused. And so I spent some time talking about assessment equity in the article for it. So maybe that's something we can simply republish.
Okay.
I have some charts in there too, because I'm kind of a fan of those.
Speaking of assessments, there's a move in Springfield to create an exit tax for Illinois, only for the collar counties, the money being charged to anybody who sells a house to leave Illinois ostensibly, and the money is going to go to the CTA, RTA, I'm not sure. Who's going to assess that? Would it be a state or the county? Do you have any idea?
Well, as they usually say, the devil's in the details. The versions I've seen it would be collected through the transfer tax that is paid at the time of closing. So there's already a transfer tax. This would be simply added and collected it there. I believe one of the hangups that I've seen in one of the bills is that it was not something that it would have to be applied on a jurisdiction basis that didn't line up neatly with county boundaries, which meant the recorder would then be tasked with determining where in the county they were and whether they had to pay that specific tax. And I think that was one of the concerns that we had about it. But all this I'm hearing anecdotally because it wouldn't directly affect my office. I just pay attention to that sort of thing because I'm kind of a nerd about it.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Mr. Tippy, you had a question?
Actually, it was handled by Mr. Gripe primarily. I just wanted to point out that really the assessments start, with the township assessor. It's their accuracy. And the key thing is that Mr. Armstrong has regular meetings with all of them to keep everything in line. So part of it is due to the fact that we've got a bunch of good assessors.
Oh, absolutely. I love our township assessors. What I think is perhaps most telling about our township assessors is how non-contentious assessor elections are. In the last 3 election cycles, we have had 1 contested election, and that contested election was for an open seat where the prior assessor was retiring. I talked to my colleagues at conferences and meetings, and they are amazed that we have this kind of what I like to call calm about the assessment. And there's a county near here where the township's assessors got together and sued the county in federal court over disagreements on assessments. And I mean, it's not to say that we always agree about everything. That's okay, but we all work together well. And we could not do this without the team that we have, the deputies I have in my office, the folks at the township level who do amazing work. And when we're all pulling in the same direction, it makes life easier. I was looking at some information that Roger Fonstock sent over about the years, about 25 years ago. So before I got here, and just how assessments were delivered late, tax bills went out late, money was cost there. There was a lot of concern about assessments and people were arguing. And we all work together here. We have regular meetings with the treasurer's office, the clerk's office, the township assessors are included in that. And the vendors who deal with us have just expressed their marvel at this. They said there's so many counties where you can't get, say, the assessor and the treasurer in the same room because they don't like each other and won't meet. And that just doesn't exist here. And I'm happy to be here. I'm 61. I'm hoping to retire when I'm 70. And if you guys keep approving me, I'll stick around till then because there's calm. Drama doesn't appeal to me like it did when I was a young man.
Okay, if you want to continue on with your budget presentation.
Sure. Budget presentation that
Mr.
begins on
Chairman?
page. Oh, I'm sorry.
I had my hand up.
Oh, sorry, I didn't see it. Mr. Young, go ahead.
It's okay. Yes, for Mark, I just have a quick question. For Illinois, what is the ranking? I mean, everyone talks about, they come to the board meetings and say that Illinois is the highest, has the highest property taxes, and Kane County is like top 10 in the country or whatever it is. Do you know where do we rank as far as property taxes, as far as a state in the country and as far as a county?
Honestly, I've heard all the same information you have. I've not looked at any of the sources. What I can, just from an observation, say part of the reason we have the such high property taxes, and they are high, there's no arguing that, is because we fund a lot of things through property taxes that other states use different tax structures. Other example of regional differences, both Wisconsin and Florida have higher homestead exemptions than Illinois does. Homestead exemptions will mean that those taxpayers pay less. It also means everyone else pays more. But in Florida and Wisconsin, they have a much higher percentage of out-of-state homeowners who have vacation homes. Think of snowbirds in Florida. And so that's part of their overall policy is to make those differences. If we wanted lower property taxes, the thing that would have to be addressed is the overall spending structure. And we'd have to decide either we're not going to spend the money or we are not going to withdraw the money in that way. It would have to come from something else, either income taxes, excise taxes, something different from that. If you're interested in information on where we stand county by county, I can see what I can find out for you.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay. And now you may continue.
Very good. So the budget I've got is actually kind of a simple one. Not a lot of moving parts to this. So we're beginning on page 73 of your packet. First number, we see revenue. We see a little bit for fees and mapping royalty fees, but mostly it's salary reimbursement, which we are looking at from year to year. That's a reimbursement from the state of 50% of whatever my salary is, provided I meet statistical targets. Good news is we've met them every year I've been in office, and I anticipate meeting those going forward. Now, let's go to the expense side. We're going to start with Subdepartment 170, which is the Supervisor of Assessment. This is my office specifically. And you can see our largest expense overall is going to be personnel. You can see the submitted budget is $959,325. After that, if you turn to page 74, you'll see our second highest expense. That is $32,000. Now, if you look back to 2023, our last general assessment year, you see I spent $169,110.70. That is because by state law, every 4 years, all parcels have to be published in the newspaper. In intervening years, any revisions or corrections have to be published in the newspaper. Is there a cost is there a price of not spending that money? And that answer is yes. And that cost would be, you don't get to collect any taxes at all. It would be no one in any local government gets to. If we don't publish this, we cannot do it. Anybody who goes to a judge and says, this is a mandatory function, it has not been met, the judge is saying, yeah, you can have your money back. So it's not something I like spending. I think it is a waste. I think publishing in newspapers is a terrible way to go. But at this point, the legislature believes differently, and we don't have a choice in the matter. We're on for the ride. The next thing after that is, and I'm looking at budget items over $10,000. That's it. The other ones, you can obviously ask me questions about anything, but this is what we're going at. So looking a little below that, we have employee training and employee mileage expense. This keeps a trained staff that can ask questions. It's really important that I have a good trained staff to be able to dispose of questions fast. Our staff has continued to shrink over the years. When my office split from GIS, or miraculously, I guess GIS was split up from my office and went over to IT in 2001, we had the supervisor and 28 employees. As of today, we have the supervisor and 14 employees. So we've literally cut our staff in half in 25 years. Now, I'm not complaining about that, but that means the staff I have to make sure they can address questions and do things accurately and timely. Below that, on the page 75, we see an item under computer-related supplies. These are things like keeping together desktop scanners for processing, things like exemption applications. So we immediately have those stored in our system. So we ran out of filing space a couple of years ago. So we moved into Laserfiche. It pays for Laserfiche licensing. It pays for keeping certain computer equipment that isn't paid for by the county up to date every year. Then farther down that, we now work into the Board of Review. We have a $98,687 line that pays for the 3 main board members, their salaries. Those are full-time employees. They not only hear assessment complaints, they meet monthly to deal with exemption issues, but they also represent Kane County before the Property Tax Appeal Board. So when we had employee mileage expense, that goes back to anything that's done outside the office, field visits. PTAB hearings are often in Springfield, so I have to send staff members to those, or board members to those, to represent Kane County's interest in the hearing. We don't show up, the other side wins, and they go and we get our money back from the treasurer. And so that's something that we want to make sure we're in the right spot, not just giving that back if it's not deserved. The last part of that equation is on page 76, and that's a $24,000 budget for appraisal services. This is entirely for hiring expert witnesses for property tax appeal board hearings. The larger commercial ones, they'll come in with their hired gun. If we don't have a witness against them, we will lose. If we don't have a budget for witnesses, we will not only lose, we will encourage more people to bring in their hired guns, because they know that if we don't have a budget, I can't hire an appraiser as a witness, and they're automatically going to win. So we'll have to start giving that money back. Everything here has a business case. If I didn't give it to you that I think to spend it, I think we would lose more money than we would save. Now, the last thing to focus on would be on the bottom of page 176. If you look at the columns, you can see the amended budgets for each year. I simply picked those in case there was something added after the adoption process, and then actual amounts. You can see 2023 to 2024, we had a 15% cut in the amended budget. In 2025, another 1.5% cut. In 2026, the submitted budget I have is 2.2% below 2025. Not everyone, I don't think anyone here has been, Deb Allen has been here before me, but I don't know if anyone else on the board has. I'm not one to come in and I've not overspent my budget ever. I don't come in demanding budget increases. But I do want to emphasize that I think this is the right budget to get the best results, to get accurate and on-time assessments. And I think there's a financial advantage to do that. And the cost of not doing that would exceed what the budget amount is. With that, I'd be happy to answer any questions any member of the committee has.
Any questions on the budget? Okay. Thank you very much, Mr. Armstrong.
Thank you for having me.
All right, next up, Regional Office of Education, Mr. Jonak.
Yes, thank you for having us. I brought an army with me today. So my regional assistant superintendent, Katie Elgrim, and then my director of finance is here with us, and that's Julie Ajiv. And Julie really appreciated the last presentation. I think she was geeking out on all the finance numbers. So well done. I learn something every time that I'm here. Next slide, please. So that's us. Next slide, please. All right, so the reason why I wanted to just go over the vision, one of the questions that we had the last time I was here was what are the things that we do? Do we have any informational booklet? About 2-3 weeks ago? Oh, fantastic. Thank you. So we ended up putting this brochure all together. So about 2 or 3 weeks ago, those should have been in your mailbox. If anybody needs an extra one of these or quite a few, we can get those. Just reach out to me, please. But as you see there, we're providing leadership and regulatory functions in coordinating all the services for educators, the staff, school districts throughout the entire county. And I would go so far as to say that we're going even beyond what our county, we're helping the rest of the counties in the state of Illinois in regards to the regional offices and ISCs. Oh, this thing does work. That's great. Some of the things we're doing, but this is definitely not a complete slide in regards to our services. Over 1,200 bus drivers have been trained. And this is just in this past fiscal year. 4,250 people have been fingerprinted through our office. We've got just about 2,500 school and home truancy visits over the last year. And then 520 individuals have come in and gotten tested in our offices. This is just a glimpse. If you want to hear a longer presentation, just let me know and I can go over more. So you're going to have to squint in order to take a look at this. But originally we had turned out a different budget than what is in front of you right now. The budget that we turned out was what we were looking for in regards to our increases from 25 to 26. Over the course of the last month or so, I know that there's been conversations about trying to reduce our spending in different ways. And so what we've done is taken a look at our budget from 26 and 24, and we're trying to figure out how to make some reductions. Because I definitely, being a taxpayer and understanding the extra burdens and the problem solving that this committee and the overall board is trying to do, we were trying to make that happen. Now, knowing that we are the third lowest budget in the county, from what I can tell in regards to departments, we didn't have much to play with, but we did come in at $400,572.56. And the way that we did this is by reducing one of our spots on our budget. Now, when Mrs. Hopkinson, Kathy Hopkinson, ended up sharing some of the information at one of the last meetings, I believe that was a special finance meeting, if I remember correctly, she had included our lease for our building in Geneva. And that was $180,000 that she put into our budget. I have subtracted that out from our budget because it's really supposed to come from a general fund within through a resolution through the board. So with that being done, we're coming in significantly lower than what has been projected for us. On top of that, something I want to make sure everybody understands is that when the resolution was done and the agreement was made for the Regional Office of Education to move to its new building, The resolution stated that the county was going to cover $130,000 of that lease. And anything over would be the Regional Office of Education. So that's right now, it's about $179,998 is what our lease is every year. The budget or the board has been covering that extra nearly $50,000 for the last 2 years, not before that, but for the last 2 years. What I'm suggesting is that the county continues to do what the resolution says and come in at 130, and we cover the other $50,000, or just about $50,000. Overall, that's going to be a significant reduction for the county, and that's going to bring us in at 2024, right in 2024 budget. So that's what we're looking for. I also understand that some of the discussions that are being held at the county level and at the committee level is that perhaps in the future, after our lease is done at our current building, that perhaps we should be moving to a different location. And I believe what I've heard is that that would be possibly Aurora or possibly Elgin. And I would significantly suggest against that, because right now, if you look, I was talking to my AI assistant, so this could be wrong on the way here, but north to south, we're 36 miles north to south of Kane County and approximately 30 miles east and west. Currently, Geneva is where we are located, where we're located right now as well, and we're right in the middle of that east to west. Right now, we're about 12 miles south of our northern boundary, and if we end up moving to Aurora, that's 4 miles away from the southern border. And if we move to Elgin, that's 6 miles away from the northern border. One of the things that makes us powerful and able to fulfill our mission is that we're able to have a lot of networking that takes place. I'm able to get over the JJC. If we start moving to the north or the south boundaries, not only is that going to hit our networks, our superintendents, our HR, our professional learning networks, not only is that going to hit us there in a negative way, people aren't going to be coming as much. But additionally, we have a lot of people that go out of our buildings to help out in other districts by being more centrally located. And we're only about 12 miles away from the northern border, but by being more centrally located, we're able to get out. Our people have less reimbursements, mileage reimbursements, which are 70 cents right now per mile. So our reimbursements will stay low. Our services will continue to go as they're going. People are more encouraged to come to our meetings and to learn from each other and to grow from each other as well. Additionally, one of the things that we are taking on for the county is the Juvenile Justice Center and the programs, the educational programs that are taken there. Currently, there's about, I believe, 12 counties that feed into that program, the JJC. So that is a moneymaker for the county at this time because of what we charge on a daily rate of approximately $350 per day per individual that's there. Hopefully those numbers continue to go down. That's what we overall want. But right now I lead in the educational programming over at the JJC. I work with the JJC superintendent, Mike Davis, who does an excellent job doing what he does, by the way. We're continuing to try to make sure that the programming is set up so that the students who are in detention right now can be successful one day in their lives and can add to the community. That's what we're looking for, right? I go over to the JJC approximately 2 to 3 times a week to make sure things are flowing better. We're in the process of bringing a new principal into the JJC, which was just released recently. And so going over and checking on them and making sure that those programs are fluidly occurring, it's important for us to be where we're at. Additionally, if we move to the northern or southern borders, we have teachers, paraprofessionals, bus drivers, administrators, all educational people that need to get licensed that need to get fingerprints done. And so if we're at the northern end or the southern end, that makes it very difficult for those individuals. They have to travel a lot longer. So it's important that we are centrally located for those various reasons. Guys, I have so much more of a list that I can share with you, but I think you're getting my gist. When I was in the Army for 20 years, I started working on logistics, quite a bit of logistics. And when I look at, we're coming in under what is requested. We're trying to do our part, but I also want to make sure that we're able to maintain our mission integrity and to do the things that we need to do. And I'm happy to have a conversation with any committee members here and any board members or community members that have questions about this. But my team does a fantastic job, and I just want to make sure that that's able to continue, because right now we are at the very top in regards to the educational ROEs, ISCs in the state, and I want to continue to be there. So if you have any questions, really our budget, if you can squint that much to see it, it's really comes down to our licensure specialists, our community youth leaders, administrative assistants. Essentially, that is what that is, the payroll for those individuals. Everything else we do in different ways, making things happen through grants or such. So once again, we'd be reducing one position and then making sure that we are paying that additional amount towards the lease. So that's something the county does not need to float, nor should float for the future. Let me just double check everything. All right, I think I said what I need to say, except there was a question last time I was here in regards to our new superintendent. And this is another reason why it's important. The networking that occurs with our superintendents is crucial. I was a first-year superintendent, second year and a third year, and I needed people to lean on. Those times where we came together was crucial. And with having only 9 superintendents in our county, we want to make sure that they get the support that they need. So we have, it was asked how long our superintendents were at the job, right? And so we have 5 superintendents that are in place out of the 9, 5 that are either in their first year or their second year. Most are in their first year. We have 2 that are in their third year, 1 that's in his 6th year, that's St. Charles. And then we have 1 that has 2 interims. One of those interims just left to another district, and we brought in a new one as well. But 2 interims that are serving until Central can find a new superintendent to fill their need. So we have what I would consider more freshman superintendents, and I know what it was like. And they really need a place to go and to be able to work with others and problem solve. If I have any questions at this time, I'll take them.
Any questions from the committee members? Mr. Gripe?
Not really a question, but a thank you. Thanks for your military service, by the way.
Absolutely.
I'm sure that if you'd been in the Air Force, you'd be just that much better.
I don't want to hear
prepared.
that. I don't want to hear that.
Seriously, I want to thank you for being a superintendent that has no other agenda but providing good educational resources and delivering that to the county and to the people that rely on you. That's refreshing. And Miss Lewis and I have had the privilege of going to the JJC as chaplains and seeing firsthand and talking to the young people about the impact of what you guys are doing there. So that's impressive. It's hard getting a feel good meter coming out of this room.
Sure.
And I think it's up pretty high right now. So, and the budget presentation is sound, and just thank you for all that.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Anything else for the regional office? Okay. Thank you all for being here today.
Thank you.
Next up, Veterans Assistance Commission, Mr. Zimmerman. Pass the baton there. Uh-oh. What'd you do, Vern?
I broke everything.
That was Vern.
So we have Air Force and Army, and now we'll have the Coast Guard up.
Facilities. No, that's building facilities.
Do anything.
The fake to make you feel bad.
Good morning. My report begins on page 84 of your packet. I'll go through my report pretty quickly. I've got two other items today. Our average disability claim processing time for veterans who use our office is 12 days faster on average than the average Illinois veteran. And our pension claims, that's for indigent veterans who are below the poverty level, those claims are being processed almost 35 days faster than the average Illinois veteran is. So our staff is doing a really good job there. Of the 18,000 claims pending in the state of Illinois, almost 300 of those belong to our office. Fiscal year to date, we've filed over 400 disability compensation claims, 1 pension claim, 27 dependency indemnity compensation claims, 7 survivor pension claims, 60 applications for VA healthcare, and 43 appeals on benefits, with over 2,200 forms completed in support of those benefits, as well as some others. $6.8 million in new benefits brought into Kane County veterans this fiscal year, and we provided 84 rides on Ride in Kane. Before, I guess I have one more thing. This is something that came to our attention in June. We received a call from the regional manager for Midas, the auto repair facilities in the area. They called us on Thursday afternoon, and they wanted 4 nominees to receive vehicles, refurbished vehicles, through something they do called Project Spark. So they take donated vehicles, they take them to their various franchises who volunteer to make them like new. Napa donates the auto parts to refurbish them, and then they donate those to various different recipients throughout the year. They called us on a Thursday, said they hadn't had a lot of luck with other community partners, including another Veterans Assistance Commission that said they were too busy to find anybody. But they were looking for nominees by the end of the day Friday. So we had about 24 hours to turn that around. Went to my staff and said, hey, can we do this? Can we find people who are obviously are veterans? Single parents is something they were looking for, and then they had to have a barrier to transportation. So in Kane County, the veteran population is about 5% of the overall population. So then narrow that down to single parents and those who have a barrier to transportation. We're looking at a very finite number of people we're looking at. Staff didn't complain at all. They went right to their lists, to their client files, and we were able to get them 4 people by the end of the day on Friday. It worked out so well that they came back to us a couple of weeks later and said, can you find us 2 more people? We gave them another 4 nominations. And of the 6 vehicles donated at Soldier Field, 2 individuals to the recipients. Of the 6 that were donated on July 2nd, 5 of those went to veterans from Kane County. So we're pretty proud of that. And I think that really speaks to the staff. They're really ingrained in that they're veterans themselves. They're in the community. They know who needs the help, and they just do a tremendous job. And they knew that that would be life-changing for those people. So if there's any questions on my report, I'll be happy to take those. Otherwise, we can move on to the budget.
Any questions? Nope. Okay.
Mr. Chairman, Surges.
Oh, Mr. Surges.
Hey, Jake, as always, big fan. Thanks for all you do. I have run into in my travels a couple of people that are scheduled to I don't know what, I'm not being military, I don't know what the right word is, enlist, deploy, become assimilated into service that is right up your alley, because I believe they're going Coast Guard. And I gave 2 individuals your name and asked, and invited them to reach out to you if they needed anything, guidance, tutelage. And I just wanted to make you aware of that. And I'm pretty generous with your name, so I appreciate it.
Thank you for doing that. We wouldn't want to see them going to the Army or the Air Force. So.
Thank you, sir.
All right. You make it.
Okay. On to the budget. So our fiscal year 2026 budget, there's our organizational chart. We're a small office. 5 people. That's what we've had for 2 or 3 years now, and we don't project to grow that at all. So we'll remain flat there. Interestingly, our budgets, the statute that governs our budget comes from the Military Veterans Assistance Act. And it provides a minimum funding formula, which is 0.02% of the last known equalized assessed value of all properties in the county, unless the delegates of the Veterans Assistance Commission, which is the governing body that oversees me, request for less. So if we were to take that 0.02%, that would be a $4.3 million budget for 2026. The budget that I proposed to the delegates and that they passed unanimously is $713,000, bringing a $3.6 million savings to Kane County. And there's our fiscal year 2026 budget with moderate increases in all categories. I guess I kind of did this a little bit backwards. Personnel costs, like most other places in government, encompass most of our costs, while the commission decides what expenses the expenses are up to 0.02% of the equalized assessed value is up to the county to decide where that revenue comes from. Historically, that's come from a property tax levy, some interest income, and drawing on our reserve when needed. And that's what we came up with Kathy as far as where the revenue was going to come from. But it would increase property taxes by about $12,500. The VAC is a total portion of the total Kane County budget. We represent about 0.2% of the entire Kane County budget. So we're pretty small there. And if we do a comparison where other counties are near peer and peer counties, if you look at McHenry County, for instance, they have roughly 25% less veterans than we do, and our budget and head count is half of what theirs is. You can also see Kendall and DeKalb counties, who only have a quarter of the veterans population we do, and we maintain the same head count as they do. So our staff just does a tremendous job. They really master what they do. They have a passion for it, and their capability serves as a force multiplier that drives the efficiencies that saves money in our budget every year. And there's a workload versus budget for the last 13 years that I've been here. So the green line represents the forms that we complete. That's the best workload measure because we can submit one disability claim with one form or a disability claim with 5 forms. It just depends on the complexity of it. So the number of forms filed is really the best workload metric that we have. And over those 13 years, our workload has increased by 405%. You see the dip there, that's COVID. That kind of impacted everybody. And then the red line is our budget in thousands over the same period of time. So moving on to what we do with that money. This is the last year that the VA has published statistics for, which is fiscal year 2023. Just in Kane County alone, they spent $71.7 million in healthcare. That's providing care, prescriptions, medical supplies, salaries to staff, leases at the Aurora Clinic, the Hoffman Estates Clinic, the Aurora Vet Center, as well as Hines VA Hospital. Another $85.5 million went to direct disability payments. That's dollars in veterans' pockets. That gets spent right here in the local economy. $8.5 million on GI Bill benefits, which goes toward education at ECC, NIU, Waubonsie, and then $650,000 in life insurance expenditures. So our job is to not only protect the $166 million that the VA spends in Kane County annually, but to also grow that. And to that extent, in the close of the last fiscal year, 2024, for every dollar we received in property taxes, we turned that almost into $18 that went in directly into veterans' pockets. And that's in the form of $9.5 million in new benefits that were awarded. That's the disability compensation and pension benefits. That's the work that they do. This year, we're already at over $6 million in new benefits with 3 months left. We serve the 16,522 veterans that call Kane County home, and our statutory duty and mission is to serve them, maximize their benefits to the extent the law allows. And again, the VA spent $166.4 million in Kane County. That number has been going up every year that I've been here. So with that, I'll be happy to answer any questions on the budget that you might have.
Any questions for Veterans Assistance Commission? Mr. Gripe.
It's not a question, but you know, the Army doesn't get all the kudos. I thank you so much for this. Again, the feel-good meter in this room is as high as I think it could possibly get, thanks to what you guys are doing, how you leverage resources, how you work so hard, how you make a real difference for people. that most people don't notice. And I just wanted to thank you, and please pass on not just my thanks, but I'm gonna extend that by inference to everybody here, to your staff for all they do and how they make a difference with a small budget, but making a big feel in Kane County. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair.
Oh,
Comes.
Ms. Gomes.
I just wanted to comment on the what you could take and what you do take factor. You know, everybody knows Jake Zimmerman, just so you're aware. And, you know, we're spreading your name, but there's so much more work to be done. And I know you guys and your team recognize that. So balancing the need with what you really could get, I appreciate that. I'm sorry that you're in that position now. So.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, Surges.
Surges.
Yeah, just to get personal for 1 second, I had an experience with Mr. Zimmerman just a few weeks ago. My son is a resident down at the University of Florida Medical Center, and in one of his rotations at the VA, my son is Jacob as well. And Jake lost his first patient, who was an elderly 86-year-old veteran, kind of hit our family, you know, pretty hard. And Mr. Zimmerman did not hesitate to take my call and walk me through some of those emotions and how I might handle that with my son and give advice. And so, Jake Zimmerman, I cannot thank you. I know that I know we dote on you, but it's because you deserve it, my friend. So thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, and then you have a resolution.
Yes, so my predecessor, who retired in 2013, passed away earlier this year in a car accident in Kansas. He served as a caseworker in the Veterans Assistance Commission from 1974 until 1977. 1977, he became the first Vietnam veteran to become a superintendent of a Veterans Assistance Commission in Illinois, and then served as superintendent for the next several years until 2013 when he retired. So I've been here for 12 years. Yes, 12 years now. And looking back in history, I actually have the shortest tenure of a superintendent, I believe, in our history. So it's a position that people tend to stay in for a while. But he was here for quite some time, made an immeasurable impact on the community, on veterans, on their survivors, their families. He was responsible for the Veterans Memorial that's out front here, the beautiful one that we see every day when we pull onto the campus. And we would just like to memorialize him and what he did here with a stone down by the Veterans Memorial. So.
Can I get a motion in a second on this?
Tepe moves.
Tepe moves.
Gripe second.
Gripe seconds. Any discussion on this?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Is it flat or does it?
Yes, so if you walk down there now, and the pictures up there, you'll see the sidewalk that leads down. There is one stone down there already that commemorates a county board member. And it would be almost exactly the same, 20 inches wide by 10 inches deep or tall there. It's a flat marker, flat granite marker. It would look like this. This is what it says on it, but it would look almost identical to what that one is there already.
I'm just wondering if there's a way to, both of them, for the one for Mary there and the other one, to raise them a little bit, because over time, I think dirt and sediment and stuff will obscure it somewhat. So I don't know if there's a way to raise it a little bit.
I can definitely talk to Roger about that and see what we can do.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Okay, clerk, please call the roll.
Gripe,
Gripe, yes.
Gums, yes.
Lewis,
Lewis, yes.
Surges,
Surges, yes.
Pepe,
Tepe, yes.
Young,
Yes.
Sanchez.
Sanchez, yes. Okay, thank you, Mr. Zimmerman. County Clerk's Office, Mr. Pollack.
Good morning. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I do want to defend the honor of the Army. My dad was an Army vet. I wasn't, because if you had me defending this country, we'd be speaking a different language. But I'll serve my country the way I can. So quickly, you have our report on file. I wanted to point out a couple things in terms of where we're at in the year. We'll get to a little more of it in the budget, but in terms of serving, we're at about 13%. We're serving about 13% more customers this year than last year, which was a record last year. So we're doing more. That driver that we continue to see is passports. Although birth, death, and marriage records are actually up as well, but we're about 36% over passports last year, which was a record year. On the monthly financial, you'll see year to date, we're up about 365,000 over last year in terms of the revenue we're generating. Again, I'll get you a little bit more in the budget presentation, but the two highlights of that are non-property tax revenue. Grants, as we always point out, we're very aggressive in seeking grants. Our grant revenue is higher, shows up in that election fee line here. And then the passport revenue is significantly higher as well. So couple show and tells. I want to make sure that we're up on the feel good meter for Mr. Gripe. So I hope we can match everyone else. We have copies of our 2025-2026 government guide. Passed out copies to board members. They are available on the website. If you go to it's on the elections page. So it's elections Kane County. I'm sorry, it's clerk.kanecountyil.gov/elections. At the bottom of that page, there's a tab towards the bottom that has the government guide as well as the election calendar. So our government guide, shows what the departments do, has pictures of our elected officials, county board maps, the appointed officials. So if you're looking for county services, stuff's in here. We have some other general resources for state and local offices. We have our state and federal elected officials that represent Kane County, and then the local stuff. How to get in touch with your school board, your township, your village, your city, some of the special districts like the fire protection districts. That information's in here. So we do have hard copies over at the office, but if you go on the website, all the information is here. We do update it more frequently on the website. We don't publish a new version except every 2 years. So when we do get changes, we update them on the website. So that's probably your best source. But if you're looking for a hard copy, come on over to the office. We also have our election calendar. We are welcome to the 2026 cycle. We've started that kicked off on August 5th with the first day of petition circulation for the March 17th primary. But in the calendar, you have a lot of the dates that will be relevant to you and probably a lot more that aren't relevant to you. Some of them are reminders to our office on the things that we have to do. Another reminder of how many things are mandated by the state in terms of elections. The calendar goes through the 2026 cycle and into the 2027 cycle. You'll see that when you get beyond November, we do have a reminder that these dates are subject to change. The General Assembly mandates when the elections are. So it's possible they may make changes to the calendar for the 2027 cycle. So those are suggested dates that we anticipate that they will be for the 2027 cycle. Most of the other ones, barring changes by the General Assembly, should be pretty accurate for the 2026 cycle. And again, also on the website, I think that link is right under the government guide. So had copies. If anyone else is looking for a paper copy, feel free to come to the clerk's office and get one as well. That's pretty much it for this report. Any questions on our monthly? None? Okay. I know we're running late. We'll move to the budget presentation.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I had a question.
Sir just has a comment as well.
Mr. Young.
Yes, thank you. David Young. Brian, there were some comments in public speaking about the elections and non-citizens voting. And I know that we've talked about this before, but I just want to clarify something. Is it possible, since everyone gets the same driver's license now, is it possible for a non-citizen on the day of the election or just shortly before the day of the election to go in with a driver's license and a ComEd bill as a non-citizen, register to vote and vote? And I believe the answer is yes, because there is no way to check the status of that individual at the polling location. You can only do that at the DMV. And I just want to make sure that's possible. I mean, I don't want it to happen, but is that actually possible?
I can't really comment on a hypothetical. I can point out that we follow state law. Just pulled up our election code. The state legislature passes laws that we are required to follow. Time, place, and manner for elections are governed by the state legislature. State legislature has passed law that says a voter can register to vote and vote on election day. It's called same day or grace period registration. The requirements of what a voter needs to register to vote are governed by state law. Our election judges follow that law when someone comes to vote. If they're registering to vote, whether it's on election day, whether it's 40 days before election day or 3 months or 2 years before election day, the election judges, if it's at the polling place, or the deputy registrar, or the staff in the clerk's office that registers that voter, asks for the required ID documentation, what have you, of the voter. The voter presents that information. The voter signs an affidavit under penalty of perjury saying that the voter is qualified to vote, and that's what we follow.
Okay, so it is. So we are not checking citizenship at the polling location just because we don't have that. We just don't have access to that database like the DMV. So if someone is a non-citizen and does decide to lie about their citizenship, they could vote, right?
We follow state law, and state law prohibits that.
The answer is yes. So someone could do that, right? So as a second question, and your the answer is someone could do that. So you're being very careful with your response. I appreciate that. My second question is the voter rolls. So now let's say that someone who is a non-citizen does sign up to vote, whether it's 2 months before or 6 months before or a year before an election. How are we making sure that our voter rolls in Kane County only include citizens of Kane County, citizens that have not moved out of Kane County? How often is that done and checked?
We deal with our voter rolls on a daily basis. I'd invite you to come to the office to see how those names come over from the Secretary of State's office, how they come over through the databases with other states and other counties that we use. I'd love you to see the process so you can understand what we do.
How often is
We deal with the voter rolls on a daily basis.
So every day you're eliminating people off the voter roll? Every day.
If someone passes in Kane County, we have that information right away. That happens almost instantaneously. We get new NCOAs almost on a daily basis when people change their address, when they move over. So.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Sturgis and then Ms. Gums.
Yeah, I do want to chime in on this a little bit. I did hear the public comments. I have listened. But most importantly to me, I have taken a considerable amount of time to try and get to the bottom of this issue. And I've listened to everybody, including fellow board members say, we don't have a problem. And to those individuals, my point is, I'm just asking for transparency and verification. If we can get a report verified that of the 5,000 same-day voters, if we can simply validate that those voters were citizens, then I will wholeheartedly stand up and agree that we do not have a problem. But I don't know how we make that statement without validating it, without being transparent. I would like to speak with confidence and be able to say we do or do not have an issue. And I have exhausted every avenue humanly possible to me, from Jack's office to the motor vehicle department to the senators to the state reps, everybody asking, can somebody please, you can scrub the names. I don't need to be that granular. I just need to know, of those 5,000, are 100% of them citizens? Were 80% of them citizens? Were 50% of them citizens? I'm not looking for a preset answer. I would just like somebody to put this to bed once and for all, to say, this is the process, because right now I feel like we are doing nothing but hiding and saying, I'm sorry, the law states, and if there's an infraction, I'm telling you that's not good enough. We should be able to transparently run a report that validates this is where we're at and put this to bed and move on. And I am continuing this. Somebody has said, well, if you'd like to do that, you're going to have to file a lawsuit. Seriously? I don't want to file a lawsuit. I just want an answer to the question. This is the law. Are we following the law? Yes or no? And if so, how do we validate that? And if you're going to tell me that there's not a problem, then prove to me where you validated that. Prove to me the methodology and the system that you've used to track that, because at this minute in time, I'm not for or against it. I'm just telling you, if my charge was to find that information out at this minute in time, I'm no place. And I met with Jack in December. I mean, guys, it's August. I'm really at a loss here. And again, I'm not making an accusation. I'm just asking for transparency and verification. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sturgis, and I apologize to the committee, but I have an appointment that I have to be at and I have to leave. Didn't know we were going to go this long. Always appreciate robust discussion. So Vice Chair, Mr. Roth is going to take over for me, and I know he's going to do a great job. No pressure. All right, guys.
So as the saying goes, Mr. Roth, come on down. All right.
Question.
Yes. Ms. Scott.
I actually have a statement, Mr.
Okay.
Chair. Thank you, Gums here. I appreciate the questions from my colleagues. And I would like to put it to bed. So in the state of Illinois, when you get a license as a non-citizen resident, it says not for federal use. It does not say temporary license anymore. That changed July of 24. So that means you cannot use that license to register to vote. That is not a qualifying document or identification, because it says on there, not for federal use. One does not look like the other. I hope that answers part of at least the left side of the bed. And then the second part is, I would suggest that if there was folks on our rolls that are not registered or undocumented citizens here, that we would have had a lawsuit at some point. We would have heard about it. And all I keep hearing is everything's fine from those who are professionals and experts in the field. So you could say it all day long that it might not be so, but the accusation that somebody should prove that there isn't a problem is kind of counter to what I think it should be. And if there's a problem, maybe you should prove there is one. So that would be the left side of the bed. And I think I'm done.
Thank you, Ms. Gums.
Mr. Roth, Surges.
Mr. Surges.
Hey, Michelle, I would love to take this offline with you. You and I get along so well, and I know we have these conversations, but I simply have a question and I would like an answer, and I don't understand all the smoke and mirrors involved in finding out the validation process.
Understood.
I mean, I don't understand that. For you to tell me, prove that there's a problem, I'm not suggesting there is. I'm asking for a list so I can suggest there is none or there is one.
That's fair.
Transparent, clean, with confidence. That's all we're asking. And Michelle, I know in your heart you know that. I know
love
that
you.
I am
Cliff,
not
you know I
trying to
love
pin
you.
anything in either direction. I'm just trying to say, will somebody just show me this? I've asked a question. I'm an elected official. Why can't, if I can't get the answer, who can?
We'll
I
take
don't
it offline.
understand,
Okay, I would request we take this offline. The
Uh,
experts are over in building B.
Mr. Roth.
Yes, Mr. Young.
David Young, one more thing here.
Okay, one more thing.
On this, look at your driver's license. I'm looking at mine right now. It says federal limits apply. Everyone gets that, whether you're a citizen or non-citizen. And Leslie Juby pointed this out. So no, everyone, the people that have a driver's license that are non-citizens, their driver's license says federal limits apply. Well, yeah, so does mine. Federal limits apply. So everyone has the same driver's license, and I'm with, and I still say, then show me that there's no problem. Because there is a problem, and we just had Brian Pollock admit that, yes, it is possible for someone to come in with a driver's license and a ComEd bill and vote the same day. Are they on the voter roll? I don't know. I mean, I guess I'll have to stop by the office and talk to them, because I'd like to see how they get people that are non-citizens off the voter roll. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, everyone, for their comment. But like I said, the experts are over in building B, and Jack has a very open door policy on explain to anyone who shows up. And I've been there multiple times, and he's done a great job along with his great staff. Thank you. All right, back to the budget.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. With me today, I have John Harahan, who helped prepare the budget. Also here to answer any questions if we have some. My goal normally is not to speak quickly, but I'm going to for time's sake.
Thank you.
Whoops, wrong way. Okay, quickly, I'm going to go through the services the clerk's office offers. I think it's helpful to understand where the money's going and what we do. The main areas of focus: vital records, passports, property tax services, and elections. So in terms of vital records, we are the keeper, the registrar of vital records. So if you're looking for a birth certificate, death record, marriage license, why do people need them? Well, if you're applying for a passport, getting married, registering your kids for school, when a member passes away, you need those records. And again, these are all mandated functions. We are required by state law to be the keeper of these records and to give them to people that are requesting them. And we have to follow the law of who can request them. Just quickly, we've issued about 5,700 in 2024, and we're trending 5% above that this year. In terms of death records, about 3,600 a year, and we're trending 7.5% above 2024 in 2025. Marriage licenses, if you're getting married in Kane County, whether it's a civil ceremony, whether it's a religious ceremony, whether it's at the courthouse, you must apply for a marriage license before that ceremony, and the marriage license is valid for 60 days. People can begin the process online. We're up in terms of marriage licenses this year, about 2%. Tax extension. We've heard a masterclass from Mr. Armstrong about the process. The clerk's office is part of that process in terms of extending the taxes. All those line items that go on your tax bill, how much is going to be paid to your school board or your township or your city, those are calculated by the clerk's office when those taxing bodies give us those levies. We also handle the delinquent side, the redemption side. So after the tax sale, when people are not able to make that payment and their taxes are sold, they come to the clerk's office and redeem those taxes. Why does it matter? Mr. Armstrong, he told us, I think it was 160,000 or something a day when those bills are late. All these local governments need that money, and that's why it's very important that the whole process goes along.
Can I quick question on the previous slide? Is that okay, Mr. Chair?
Mr. Gregg.
You talked about extensions for local governments. Is that an appeal by the local government or an appeal from a taxpayer to a local government? I don't understand.
It's not the appeal. So what happens is, so you pass a levy, the county board passes a levy November, December. Every other local government passes a levy. So those levies are then sent to our office. They're filed in our office. And then the property, the review board that handles the appeals, all that stuff comes, and then Mr. Armstrong basically certifies the books, gives them to us. And then we have, okay, here's what the levies are. Here's what all the assessments are. And then we synthesize that to say, okay, for your property, boom, 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 here's what you pay. And then that information goes to the treasurer's office, who then sends out the tax bill. We're not doing the appeals. We're just calculating all those numbers. We do a lot, just kind of letting people know what's going on. Some of you have been to the office, we appreciate it, and just giving them a little bit of a 101 for everything else. Okay, you've seen these numbers before. These are the numbers of what happened for the extension in this past year. How much, the 23 billion, the value of the property, the just under 200,000 parcels, and how all of this interacts with each other and how everyone's a part of the process, and we're just a cog in that wheel. Passports. We've talked about this for a reason. It's the only non-mandated function of our office, but it's all revenue. We don't have additional staff. We didn't hire additional staff to handle passports. Our current staff does it. This is all additional revenue that we're giving back to the general fund. So for each new passport application, since we're an acceptance agency, we receive $35 to file those passports, and then we charge $15 for the passport photo. So if we have someone that's getting their picture taken and applying for a new passport, that's $50 of additional revenue that's going straight to the general fund. This chart's updated through July. We're at 4,607 passports through July. We're about 500 under our record of 2024. We're up 36% over that year. We're on pace to get to almost 8,000 this year. And what does that mean when you translate it into money? Between the acceptance fee that we get plus the picture fee for the people that take it, at this point through July, we had brought in an additional 240,000 in revenue. That is ahead of the total from 2024. And as you can see, much higher than all the years before this. So at this point, we're on pace for about 400,000 in revenue. Again, non-property tax revenue, not something we're required to do, something we're doing to help the issue with revenue for the county. So where are we at in terms of the budget? Instead of giving you all the line items, you've all seen it before. I know you want to look at the bottom line. So our office is basically divided into elections and non-elections. This is the non-elections. This is the vital records, tax extension, and passports. All mandated functions except for passports. And this side of the office basically pays for itself. We bring in enough revenue to cover the expenses. As you can see, we bring in more revenue than we spent in 2024 for this, and we budgeted in 2026. So if we're using, we know this is a recommendation, but the initial recommendation of the Finance Committee was to use 2024 actual. Our 2024 actual for The non-elections portion of the office is $1,117,000. Our submitted budget was $1,265,000. So we're about 148 above at this point. I'll get to the bottom line as we finish. Elections. We do a lot. Here are a couple of the highlights. These are all mandated requirements. We recruit and train election judges. The recruitment is not something that we're mandated to do, but it's mandated of the political parties to give us election judges. Unfortunately, both parties have failed to give us those amounts. So it's then incumbent on us to find judges so that we have enough judges to meet the statutory requirements. But we train them, that is required. Preparing the voting equipment, getting it ready for the election, getting the ballots ready, all of those things. Finding polling places. We need to have X amount of polling places under state law. We do. Maintaining our voter database, voter education, opening and running the early voting sites, accepting vote by mail applications, mailing out those vote by mail applications, making sure we have a secure and transparent process for the vote by mail process from the time we create the ballots through the time we send them out to the time that they come back. There are at least one bipartisan team of election judges at every stage of that process, sometimes more. Opening and closing the polling places on election day. It's not just you flip a switch and you go. A lot of these things take a lot of effort. Picking up the equipment after the election, processing, tabulating the votes, all of that process. This is a much more challenging process than it was 10 years ago. It's a more costly process than it was 10 years ago because of all these unfunded mandates from Springfield. It's not our job to pick and choose what we do. The book tells us what we do. We follow the law. Just a couple of the things. This is some of the items on social media that we have to recruit election judges, discussing the different ways to vote in Kane County, reminding voters they can vote at any location. If you come to our office, if you go into the processing room where all the vote by mail equipment is, you see a giant poster that shows all the steps in the process of vote by mail. And you have election judges at every step of this process. When poll watchers come, we hand out these charts so they're aware of what's going on. We have color coding in the office so people can see, oh, I'm in the yellow section. Here's what's going on here. We want our poll watchers and our members of the public to be aware of what's going on so that they can feel secure and know that the process is transparent and open. These binders, while we want to make sure that every step of the process, you have the election judges signing affidavits, signing documents to show that they signed off that the mail came from the mailroom, or that a seal is put on here on these ballots, or that this process went through. We're counting to make sure that if X amount of ballots come in from the mailroom that day, X amount of ballots are accounted for. And so we have paper documentation of every step of the process. Okay, bottom line when it comes to elections. The 2024 actual number, 3,850,000. Our submitted budget was actually where we're at right now is 4,640,000. Our cost drivers in elections are our salaries. Most of our frontline employees are union members and they have negotiated collective bargaining agreements. All these are mandated functions, like we said. One of those mandated responsibilities in an election year is we have to mail out a letter to every registered voter that is not already taking advantage of the permanent vote by mail on that list. We have to send them out a letter required by state law that they are entitled to do it and send them an application. That's another cost driver, mailing to almost 300,000 registered voters. So bottom line, where are we at in terms of versus the 2024 actual benchmark? Our initial submitted budget was a little over 7 million. Was about 6.8 million. We've reduced that number at this point down to about 6 million. So we've taken about half of that gap. We're in the process of continuing to look for more reductions that we can do. Our office does have a number of non-general revenue fund options. So there is additional revenue to handle any overages that if the county board were to allocate only at that 5 million mark, there is additional revenue from other sources like grants And we are seeking additional grants to cover those expenses. But that said, we are a team player. We understand the process. We just want to let you know where we're at right now. We've already cut about half that budget, half that deficit out right now. Before we close, I do want to point out the revenue option. We've generated at this point of the year about 365,000 more in revenue now than we had in 2024. We've already exceeded our revenue projection for 2025 based on this new revenue, and we hope that it's actually we're going to have even more at the end of the year. We want to be a solution to the problems that the county's having. We're producing extra revenue, not just asking for more revenue. But I do want to point out that difference. If the board does go with that snapshot of 2024 and we're looking at actual expenses, and we're going to freeze that in time, I also want to point out that we should look at how much more revenue we're bringing in since 2024. So we generated about 1.3 million in fiscal 24 in actual revenue. We're expecting 1,753,000, and it may be more. We've overperformed each year. So if we're going to freeze that snapshot in 2024, I'd like you to look at the fact that we're projecting 450,000 more in revenue. So keep that in mind when you're doing your allocations. Also want to point out that at the end of the year in fiscal 24, we returned about $1 million back to the general fund. Part of that was additional money that we brought in terms of more revenue over what so last year we brought in more revenue than we expected. This year we're bringing in more revenue. Last year was about 300,000. At this point, we're probably over 400,000 more in additional revenue. So between that and being under budget, we returned about $1 million to the general fund, which you reallocated in this year's budget. Clerk's office has been under budget every year. A couple points just to finish. We understand the situation. We're trying to balance the needs of running the office to make sure that we're maintaining the staffing that's required to handle the mandated responsibilities. And it's difficult in this budget. It's difficult in any budget. We all are in that situation where everyone wishes they had more employees. We understand that. But we want to make sure that we're providing an equitable salary because we have had significant turnover in the last few years. At the same time, we want to remain fiscally responsible to the taxpayers, and we want to help the county meet the bottom line. So we will be a team player and do what we can, and we're going to continue to find reductions to help get to an amount, and whatever the county board allocates, we understand we'll live within that budget, and we'll continue to seek non-general fund revenue to help any shortfalls. Sorry, it's fast. Any questions?
All right, thank you. Any questions?
Thank you.
All right, I have one, just a quick one.
Yes.
All the fees, is that determined by the county clerk or is some of that mandated by the state what we can charge?
Some things are mandated, like the passport fee is mandated by the feds.
Okay.
The other things are county board will pass a resolution about what can be done.
Okay, but it's a recommendation coming from the clerk. And how often do we review that to see if we are able to change it?
It's up to the county board. They'll do cost studies from time to time to see what's going on.
Okay. On the average every year or every 3 years or so?
No, it's been a while. I think those
Has it
numbers have
been?
been there since I've been there.
Okay, I would suggest that maybe we looking at that. I'm not saying we need to raise it, but we should always review. Thank you. Any other? Okay. Thank you. All right, is there any other business? Yes, Mr. Gripe.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Rachel's going to be passing out, and I think Blair has something to throw up. I'd like to propose for consideration by the committee a resolution recognizing the award that Kane County received and, for the work that Chris Lawson did from Cash Fest. And that was presented a little while back. And what the reason for this is not because there wasn't a award presented, it was at a meeting, but because, this award is given to one person in the entire country. And Kane County, through the efforts of Mr. Lawson and his office, put us in a position to be named the #1 county in the country of, I don't know, whether it's like several thousand counties for what we've done, earning interest and doing things that you would want a treasurer to do. So I would just like to submit it. I could read it, but you know, everybody could read it. I'm not quite sure how the best way to do this, but just like it, you know, offered for consideration to move through the process to be considered by the board.
Well, normally it gets passed in a subcommittee and then goes to the board.
Okay.
So can I get a motion in a second?
If that's a motion, I'll second.
Okay,
Surges.
It's a motion.
okay, thank you. Okay, thank you, Ms. Juby, for correcting me.
Cannot vote on things that are not on the agenda.
Oh, that's true.
So
Thank
you
you.
can introduce it in new business and then he can work with the chair of this committee to get it on
Right.
his next
Okay,
agenda.
okay. And it could go to another committee too, right? On their agenda?
It,
This is the reporting committee.
this is, yeah, it should
I'm
come
just
here.
asking for
Yeah,
clarification.
I mean, it can, we constantly don't do. what
Well,
we're
a
supposed
lot
to
of
do,
times we
but
go right to executive.
I mean, you can, but
It's not me doing that. It would be,
That would be fine to keep it here.
take care. Okay, so no motion, sorry. Sorry, Mr. Trevor. All right, any other business? And thank you, Ms. Juby, for the clarification. Okay, there's not a need for executive session because I see no state's attorney. Can I get a request for unanimous approval of the reports being placed on file?
Gripe would move for unanimous.
Okay, everyone okay with that? Okay. And can I finally get a motion for adjournment?
Oh, I'd like to move for adjournment.
Okay, a second, please.
Drums.